Do you find yourself in your isolation season and you're feeling stuck or lost? Let's talk about it.
One look and I breathe.
Welcome to Breion's Diary, where we talk about life. We are healing, growing, building our confidence and self-esteem. So this is part 2 of the final video of the isolation season. And I felt the need to elaborate more on the season of isolation topic because I wanted to give a true understanding of what the isolation season is, what to do in the isolation season, and give more clarity as to why some have to go into the isolation season like me. So I've actually been in isolation for a while now. I know there are some people like me where God was guiding you to isolate and you probably try to fight it, or you're trying to fight it. And even though I'm nearing the end of my isolation season, the Bree that I was a couple months ago, years ago, was fighting. I was being hard-headed and stubborn. I was in and out of depression and filled with anxiety still. And it wasn't as bad as it was 2 years ago, but I wanted to be in control of my life like really bad. I had to really put my pride aside and realize like I cannot, will not, and won't ever win a battle against the enemy if I'm being disobedient to God. So spiritually, I was getting beat up bad, like worn out. Enemy 7, Bree 0. And so anyways, I was teetering. God was calling to me and I saw the phone ringing, but in some areas I still wanted what I wanted, so I pressed ignore. So Luke 9:23 says that whoever wants to be my disciple must deny himself and take up the cross daily and follow me. And when God opens your spiritual eye for you to see certain things and you still try to do what you want, do what you want to do, he's going to allow some things to happen to you. I can't get mad at anybody, or him for that. I mean, I'm hurting myself by not listening, or in better words, not being obedient. I used to pray and fast, and when things started going good again, I started feeling better. I convinced myself that, I could go back to doing the things that I was doing before. And when God already showed me that it was not okay. And so not only that, it was also a thing where he was trying to show me that the life that I was trying to create for myself was not the life that, it wasn't what he wanted for me. And I lost the battle. Nothing in my life was going right, like at all. And I had no choice but to go into isolation. So I'm just in a season, I'm looking at the self this time. I'm not blaming anybody. As I stated earlier, I was teetering. I was given a choice to live in the flesh or live in the spirit. Well, again, I was getting beat up choosing my flesh. So it was like, okay, I got it. Like, I got it. Y'all know I like to give examples. So, for example, if God basically tells you to leave a job and you say, I'm gonna stay because I make good money and I'm comfortable, well, if that work is starting to pile up on you, you're stressed out, and you continue to stay, then that's on you. If God tells you to leave that man alone and you decide to stay in that relationship or continue to talk to him, well, we know the end of that sentence. So, and just being honest, I got sick and tired of crying. I got sick and tired of being in this phase. Don't take this literally, guys, but being in situations where I got my feelings hurt, and then I went running to God for comfort, and it was kind of like, he was like, I told you so. And so He's comforting me every single time that I came to him. But at the end of the day, like I didn't want any more I told you so. So, not making excuses, but I used to overthink and be in my head a lot, and still kind of do sometimes. And in most cases, in some cases, things were literally right there in my face, and I was just in denial about it. And in other cases, I just needed to get out of my head and basically look at myself. And so I have an understanding that I used to sabotage a lot of good things in my life, as I've stated in multiple videos, and I was teetering out of fear. I kept seeking out distractions. I would put myself in positions to be stuck out of fear of true joy, happiness, and success, because I didn't know what that looked like. So As I said in my last video, when you've been in chaos for so long, it becomes a norm, and you fear what the other side is going to look like. It's basically the fear of the unknown. So you just stay in the chaos. God was trying to break me free of that, and out of fear, I kept myself in that cycle. However, deep in my heart, I did not want to be in the chaos anymore. I did not want to hurt anymore. I did not want what didn't want me. And that goes for people, places, and things. So why would I have put in so much work and come this far in my healing journey and my connection with God to continuously turn back or just stop my healing, you know? So, like, why? None of that stuff that I was going through, none of it felt good. So with that being said, nothing felt comfortable anymore. I felt out of place, and God knew that. When I first went into isolation, I gave up everything. I mean, literally everything. And for a little bit, I felt like a failure. I was disappointed, but then I started building a intimate relationship with God because I had no more distractions. It was just me and him, and he still gave me a little bit of fun, and he gave me a support system, a team of people that I needed in my time of isolation. So I want to make it clear, while I'm saying that, I want to make it clear that isolation does not mean that you will be completely alone. It just simply means that in isolation, you're isolated from distractions, from anything that was keeping you from God and your true self. And so, and ever since, I never knew how good it felt to, actually experience a peace of mind for once, to wake up literally feeling free, to feel well rested, to not be on go all the time, to just breathe and flow. Like, I love how I feel after spending a morning with God. I love feeling light. I love feeling peace. I love being mentally healthier. Like, I love being in a position where God has poured into me and I can pour into others. I love love like I really do. And so I don't want to go back to being that mean and defensive person. I can only be sociable when I'm drunk. I don't want to be a chameleon anymore. Like, those some ugly creatures, okay? I don't want to be that. So, in the period of isolation is your time to get to know God, to get to know who you truly are, to get to know your heart, to create a new identity and allow God to truly transform you. I mean, once I realized that I was going to be in isolation and things weren't going my way, and I had, basically no choice just to truly surrender to God, it's like he took my face and literally just turned it. And it was like I was looking in a mirror. I was looking at my reflection, and I completely saw myself, and I'm talking about the not so great parts of myself. So I was facing my own darkness. Then I started learning grace and repentance, asking for forgiveness, realizing that I had no time to not forgive others because I was guilty of so many things. Perfect little Bree, good-hearted Bree, was good-hearted but not as perfect and free of guilt. So, perfect and free of guilt that she thought she was. Then I had to take the time to sit and meditate and process all of the lessons I've learned, understand that everything I've experienced in the past few years have been answered prayers, to stand up for myself, to be more discerning, to be more patient, to be a better communicator, to be confident. The list goes on. I had to be separated so that I could truly be myself and not be drained because I'm not being that. And I'm learning to truly step into who God created me to be and not easily fall back into that old version of myself that I'm trying to leave behind. And so I had to learn that it's okay to do what is necessary to do what is best for me. And so because no one understood like God understood the extent of how much the hurt in my past impacted my life and my mental, my whole world was flipped upside down and I completely lost myself. All of what I experienced was new for me. I usually get along with everybody. I've never experienced, the reality that some people actually do not like me. Even if I go overboard with people pleasing for them to do so. I never experienced losing friends. I never really experienced rejection, and I never really experienced drama. So all of that was on top of my childhood traumas, and I could no longer suppress my emotions because I was forced to finally feel. Unbothered, tough Bree wasn't so tough anymore. She was very bothered. I seriously was in darkness and limbo and still tried to navigate through all of that and like everything was fine. You know, I couldn't continue jumping to different friend groups and sabotage it because I had trust issues, or I'm not being myself, and blame others for it, for how I felt. I'm very big on taking accountability these days, so right or wrong, isolation was a time for me to work on self so I can stand tall, strong, confident in who I am and not sabotage the good things that come into my life, and so that I can completely let go of unforgiveness. I know that God's not going to do me wrong. I have trust enough in Him that He will protect my mind and heart and do a great change within it. Make it healthier, fill it with the fruits, strengthen my mind, body, and spirit, not fear being alone. I used to think that I was okay with being alone, but I really wasn't. And yet I still ended up being isolated. So I can't fight God and what He was trying to do in my life out of fear. And I'm so joyful, glad and grateful that I got beat up to the point that I answered His call. Like, I'm grateful that He completely stripped me so that I can be, better. A good friend of mine told me multiple times that God had to purge me, strip me of everything so that He can build me back up in Him. And I completely understand that now. 1 Corinthians 5:17 and 2 Corinthians 3:18 are two good verses to read that. So read it when you get a chance. I didn't know what kind of Breion I was going to be after this period. And I don't know what's in store for me moving forward. But I've learned to trust God. I can't tell God that I trust Him and try to be in control at the same time. That's like oil and water trying to mix, It's not going to work. And so I've learned to sit in the passenger seat and let God guide me. And I'll tell you something, it is so good and it feels so much easier. It is so much easier being a passenger princess to life. My desires have even changed. I not only desire what God desires for me, not saying that I don't ask for things, but I truly at this point trust God that much. I trust that whatever He blesses me with and desires for me is going to be amazing. That's why I love having a relationship with Him, because He reminded me like that's everything He's given me was way bigger than anything I've ever asked for. So yeah, being in isolation reminded me of who He is and what He can do in my life. It relieved me of all the illusions and lies the enemy try to place on me. I'm blessed, so blessed and glad that I have God's favor, and I never want to lose that. So I had to get rid of that shame and post these videos and share my journey. At this point, I don't mind being His humble servant. God isolating you and stripping you of the old isn't a bad thing and nothing to be fearful of. Be excited for what's going to come on the other side. So answer the call. God is on the other side of the line, waiting for you. Answer, but this time, do it with your whole heart. Isaiah 55:6. Go full force with everything you've got. You got this. And lastly, I do want to say, please do not feel like you have to go into isolation to become a better version of yourself. I'm simply stating these things for those that God is calling to go into isolation. And also, please, please, please discern whether it's God calling you into isolation or if it's the enemy, because he will try to isolate you also. Again, seek God and follow your heart. All right? So that's all I have today. In conclusion, remember, healing isn't linear. It's a journey, and at Breion's Diary, we are healing together. So that's all I have for the isolation season. I hope this helped. I love you, and I'll see you next week. Bye.